tonight, we're writing the next chapter in the great American story, a story of progress and resilience. When world leaders ask me to define America, and they do, believe it or not, I can define it in one word, and I mean this: possibilities.
President Biden celebrating America's pandemic recovery tonight, highlighting the millions of jobs that have returned, saying the nation is no longer in COVID-19's grip, and adding that our democracy survived the Capitol riot.
Tonight, the president also pushed for police reform, vowed to veto any national abortion ban, and called on lawmakers to raise the debt ceiling. Nevada Senator Jackie Rosen's guest for the speech was a Metro police officer.
She is part of the department's community policing unit and is being recognized for her work to bring the community and officers together in new, innovative ways.
Kim Passoff is here now with her story.
For 4 years now, Officer Laura Villicana has served with LVMPD.
We get the opportunity to show the community just a different side.
Her focus, the area where she grew up, East Las Vegas.
So I was actually born in Mexico, and I got brought here to Las Vegas when I was around 2 years old.
A product of Legacy High and UNLV, she always wanted to serve her community as a police officer.
So ever since I was a little girl, I knew this is what I wanted to do. Just growing up, I've always been like the protector of my little cousins, so I knew.
Once she became an officer, Villicana says she saw the need to bring her neighbors together with police.
Here in Northeast, we have a heavily Hispanic population, and for me, being a Hispanic officer, it's great to be able to bridge that gap and connect with the community that I grew up in.
The public most often encounters police after something bad has happened, an accident or a crime. Officer Villicana is trying to change that, hosting frequent community events at local businesses.
A lot of times we've been asked, like, what are you guys doing here?
One event,
Chocolate con un policía.
Another, agua fresca with a cop.
It's usually that traditional coffee with the cop, but I wanted to try something different, try to engage our Hispanic community a little bit more. We get a lot of community members that actually come up to us and ask us questions that they probably would have never asked on.
Senator Rosen says she wants to highlight Officer Villicana's community outreach efforts and her push to strengthen local relationships to all of America as an example of innovative policing.
We wanted to do something outside of the traditional. We wanted to catch the attention of other communities. More police departments across America should try just kind of stepping out of that box and try different ideas to try to engage with these different communities.
Kim Passoff, Fox 5 News, local, Las Vegas.
Nevada's Director of Mental Health Services was also in attendance at tonight's State of the Union address. Rochelle Pelletier is overseeing mental health services for the state, including the 988 helpline that just launched last year. She was the guest of Nevada Senator Catherine Cortez Masto. Pelletier says Crisis Support Services Nevada saw 87,000 calls on their 988 suicide and crisis lifeline. 60% of those came from Las Vegas.
It's the biggest populace in our state, so that most of them come from Las Vegas. But it's like the rest of the state, you know, and the rest of the nation, quite frankly. We're struggling with our mental health. We have for a long time.
Both the senator and Pelletier are calling for more funding for mental health services in Nevada. Nevada's 988 call center is one of 12 in the country that takes calls from across the state and the country.